Jordan Love is an interesting chess piece going into this off season because he'll be going into year 4 of his deal next year, and he is a first round pick. So they also have the 5th-year option on him. So it's not like they're totally running out of time, but would Green Bay think about moving him? It feels like Rodgers is certainly enjoying playing football right now more than, at least outwardly, it felt like he was at the beginning of the year. So I don't feel as though it's far-fetched to say that Rodgers would be back next year for Green Bay. He's got a lot of money on the line too to come back next year and play for Green Bay. And even though he's not at MVP caliber, I still think he's been playing fine. Certainly as he has gotten rapport with his wide receivers, you're seeing a lot more success in that realm as well. Do they move on from Love? Because, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'm looking at Las Vegas sitting there at number 10. It's not going to cost Las Vegas the number 10 overall pick to go get Jordan Love.
No.
Right?
No way. No way.
I would think that it's probably going to be some day 2 pick, right? If Jordan Love genuinely became available, I feel like Green Bay could pull the trigger with a 2nd-round pick. If you offered a 2nd-round pick for Jordan Love, I think they're pulling the trigger. Now, anything less, and it becomes less of a value of Jordan Love and where you drafted him, but more of the value of how much longer is Rodgers going to play, right? Because if you think that he's coming back for next year, which I guess I would lean, he's going to be back with the Packers next year.
Dude, there's so much money on the table for him to for him to retire would be insane.
Right. How much further are we getting there? Because then you could still say, no, we're not going to get Jordan Love. We're not going to get rid of Jordan Love because if we play Aaron Rodgers for another year, we still have Love going into next year. We've got the 5th-year option, and then we can play him on it before we make any kind of decision on a quarterback contract. So I don't know if they're going to want to move on from him just for their own planning sake. But if they do, I think a team could offer a 2nd-round pick for him, and that does go into the equation, I think, for a lot of these teams. And I look at a team like Las Vegas. That's one that could be interested in a quarterback, depending on what they're doing for Derek Carr. Derek Carr's contract gets very movable after this year. It's advantageous for him to not be on the team anymore. That's where my eyes go for Jordan Love. I don't know if you have any other thoughts with Love or where he could play into this quarterback conversation.
Man, a lot of places, because I think he's really talented. I mean, if I'm Atlanta, if I'm the Raiders, going down the list here.
The Jets?
I mean, who would have more info on him than the Jets? The LaFleur brothers. So the Jets...
Little collusion.
Yeah, right? I mean,
I don't think it's collusion.
Yeah, I don't know if we use the right word.
It's not collusion. I'm just kidding. It's not collusion.
It's fascinating. I bet there's a lot of Green Bay fans that are kind of slamming their head against their, wherever they are. Hopefully not on a human or a car, but somewhere. Listening to this, because they're like, why did we draft this guy in the 1st round just to rot on the bench all these years? And then we trade him for, whatever, 80 cents on the dollar or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, I don't think Green Bay thought they'd be in this situation. And
right.
All you have to do is Google the structure of Rodgers' deal. The way it's lined up tells you that he's here to stay throughout the rest of Jordan Love's Packer tenure. So I don't get it either. I think you have to, unless somebody is crazy enough out there to take on the Rodgers contract. And I just don't believe it. I don't believe it.
No.
And I've seen mock Rodgers trades all over Twitter. I'm like, with like real assets going back. And I'm just like, does anybody look up the deal? Like, the deal's crazy. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Because we've seen GMs do some crazy stuff for quarterbacks. Hello, Carson Wentz. Then maybe. But, man, it just feels like, yeah, if Jordan Love wants to play, and there's been rumors that he really wants to play, and who could blame him? The guy.
I'd want to play.
Guy's going into season 4. We saw him for one drive, and he ripped it up. It was sweet.
I'd tell the Packers to let me join a local flag football league.
Anything.
Shoot. Rodgers' contract, by the way, he's a $28.5 million cap hit this year. Would have had $150 million in dead cap if he was cut this year. Next year, he is $31.6 million on the cap, $99.7 million in dead cap.
Totally normal stuff.
But then true sicko stuff
this
right here.
This is the sickos meme. I am the sickos meme right now. I'm loving this.
But then the year after that in 2024, which would still line up decently, I think, with a Jordan Love timeline, because then if you wanted to move on from Rodgers and play Jordan Love on the 5th-year option, you could definitely do that. Rodgers' contract goes up to 40.7 against the cap, but a lot of the guarantees are already gone off the deal. So there's 24 million in dead cap there, but you can move on from him and be okay for it, especially since, let's face it, when you eventually move on from Aaron Rodgers, whether it's completely amicable, whether he retires or whether it's something that crashes and burns and you're basically like, hey, buddy, you need to get out of here. We're going to cut you. I think that's coming within the next 2 years. And whenever that comes, it's going to be a total rebuild anyways. So I don't think it's really that big of a deal that you would put $24 million on dead cap. Like, that sucks. Don't get me wrong. You would like to avoid that, but your team is going to be bad is what I'm saying anyways. So I think that you've just got to accept that with the contract that you sign.
Can I throw a big brain at you right now?
Oh yeah. Love it. What do we
I
got?
don't even know if I believe in this, but I just want to throw out a scenario.
Even better. Let's hear it.
What if you're Houston, right? And you get into the draft room and this happens. You like some quarterbacks. You don't particularly love one. And you have just a monster grade on Will Anderson. You're like, we think Will Anderson could be Myles Garrett, whatever it is, impact-wise. And you don't see any other player in the draft like that. If you're Houston, are you intrigued by the idea of taking Will Anderson first overall and pick swapping number 12 or some kind of exchange that has nothing to do with the first overall pick for a player that is intriguing, like Jordan Love, like Trey Lance, like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Where they have grades from those drafts. And I know Caserio wasn't there during those drafts, but Caserio still he's evaluated all these guys and has graded them a certain way. Trevor, is that something that might interest you in a sense of, we want the best player in the draft? We like Bryce on the show, right? Obviously, we like Bryce Young a lot, but I'm just trying to throw out a scenario. Some teams aren't going to like Bryce Young. I'm sorry. He's 5'10". Some teams aren't going to like Bryce Young, and we have to brace for that in some way. Isn't that alternate route at least intriguing in a sense?
I think for Jordan Love, it becomes intriguing. The Houston Texans have 2 first-round picks. They've got pick number 1 and number 12 right now. They've got 1 second-round pick, and then they've got 2 third-round picks. If you don't love Bryce, man, 33 is high. 33 is basically like another first-round pick. It's right there.
But would you trade 33 for Jordan Love?
Right.
I'm very intrigued.
What I'm thinking.
I'm very intrigued by that idea.
I wonder if they'd throw a pick back at you.
Yeah. It's not just that here's 33 and we get Jordan Love. I think you get a 4th rounder in there.
Yeah. I mean, I'd push for the 3rd because the 3rd is 76th overall and you're trading a 33rd. So that's like back end of the first round, basically.
That's a lot of value between those spots.
I'd push for it. Like, if I'm Houston, I might go, okay, we'll give you 33. And then I think they have, let me make sure here. They've got 1 4th-round pick, 1 5th-round pick, and then a butt ton of 6th-round picks and 7th-round picks. So what I'd probably say is I'd call them up, be like, we'll give you 33. We'll give you 103, which is the 4th round. So a 2nd rounder and a 4th rounder. You give us Jordan Love and a 3rd rounder.
There's a way to do this where I think everybody.
I don't know if they do a 3rd.
Yeah, I don't think so
either. They would. I don't think they would. I just said that out loud, and I'm like, nah, they're probably not.
The Texans are. It's not that just the Texans. Jordan Love is the domino in this draft that I find fascinating. Fascinating. And I'm not saying that as he's gone. I'm saying that as like either he's the starter for the Packers next year or he's starting somewhere else. I think it totally alternates how we think the top 15 will go.